The city was full of noise and movement. People hurried along the sidewalks with their faces fixed on their phones or their own thoughts. The air smelled of food, exhaust, and the faint sweetness of flowers from nearby stalls. A man walked quickly through the crowd. He was tall and dressed in clothes that showed he was successful. His steps were confident and strong, and his eyes scanned the street as if looking for something important. He was used to moving fast and getting things done without delay. Today was no different. He had meetings, calls, and decisions waiting for him. But something in the rhythm of the city slowed him down without him realizing it. Ahead, a woman struggled to carry several heavy grocery bags. She was clearly pregnant, and her movements were slow and careful. Her face showed exhaustion, worry, and determination all at the same time. She had to get home, but the bags were heavy, the street crowded, and her energy was fading. She paused, trying to adjust the weight on her arms, and looked around as if hoping someone might notice and offer help. Most people passed by quickly, their eyes on the ground or ahead, not noticing her struggle. The man slowed as he walked past. Something made him stop and look back. Perhaps it was the visible effort she was making, or the way she looked at the street ahead with hope and fatigue mixed together. Without thinking much, he turned and walked back toward her. He stepped lightly and confidently, reaching her side. He spoke gently, asking if she needed help with her bags. At first, the woman looked at him with surprise. She had been used to managing on her own and did not expect anyone to offer help, especially a stranger. Her lips pressed together as she considered his words. She had always relied on herself, but the weight of the bags and the heaviness of her body made her pause. She nodded slightly. He smiled softly and took some of the bags from her hands. Carrying the groceries was not a problem for him. His life had trained him to handle challenges, but this simple act was different. He felt a connection, a sense that this moment was meaningful in a way money or power could not create. The woman walked slowly beside him, her steps careful but steady. They did not speak much at first. The sounds of the city surrounded them, but there was a small space between them that felt separate from the noise. He made sure to match her pace, understanding that she needed time and care. She appreciated this, even though she did not say it out loud. There was something comforting about having someone notice her struggle without judgment or expectation. They reached a crosswalk, and he waited patiently as she adjusted her grip on the bags. The light turned green, and they crossed together. People moved around them quickly, but they were focused on each other. He asked if she was okay and whether the bags were too heavy. She shook her head and said she could manage, but the effort in her voice suggested otherwise. He smiled and offered to carry the rest of the distance for her. She hesitated, not used to receiving help from strangers, but then agreed. She felt a small relief wash over her as they continued walking. He noticed the way she moved. Her steps were careful to protect herself and the baby she carried. Her face had lines of worry, but also a quiet strength that impressed him. He asked gently if she was going home from shopping, and she explained briefly that she needed to prepare for the baby. She lived alone, without family close by, and had to manage everything herself. He listened with attention, not interrupting, simply acknowledging the reality of her situation. He could sense the weight of her responsibilities. Heavier than any briefcase or business deal he had ever carried. A few more blocks passed. The city seemed louder now, but the distance between them created a small bubble of calm. He carried the bags with care, making sure none of the items inside were damaged. She looked at him and felt a strange sense of gratitude and trust forming. It was rare to meet someone who helped without expectation, who noticed struggle and acted on instinct rather than gain. She had been cautious in life, careful about whom she trusted, but something in his demeanor felt genuine. They reached a small apartment building. The woman unlocked the door and stepped inside. He set the bags down on the floor and asked if she was sure she could manage to carry them in. She nodded, grateful. She paused and looked at him, wanting to say more than just thank you, but unsure how. He smiled and simply said it was no trouble, that he was glad to help. The moment felt important, more than just a casual encounter. He realized that helping her had made his day different, lighter, in a way that no meeting or phone call ever could. She felt a spark of hope, that things might be a little easier, that not every person in the world was indifferent. They parted with a polite nod, but both carried the memory of the encounter. For her, it was a reminder that help could come in unexpected ways. For him, it was a reminder that life was not just about work, success, or wealth, but also about the small connections that made a difference. As he walked back into the street, he thought about the woman and the baby she carried. He wondered how she would manage the days ahead, and hoped she would be safe and strong. For the first time in a long while, he noticed the humanity in the city around him, struggles and stories that often went unseen. He realized that even a simple act of kindness could create ripples that lasted much longer than a day. It's much longer than a brief encounter on a crowded street. He returned to his routine, but a part of him remained with her. Thinking about her strength, her courage, the life she was preparing for, the woman closed the door behind her, taking a deep breath. She felt lighter, not because the bags were gone, but because someone had seen her struggle and acted with care. It reminded her that even in the hardest times, there could be unexpected help, and that she was not entirely alone. She set the groceries down, arranging them carefully. Thinking about how the day had started and how it ended differently than she had imagined, a simple gesture had changed her mood, her perspective, and perhaps even her belief in the kindness of people. Both walked away changed, carrying the memory of a chance meeting. Neither knew what the future held, but the encounter planted a seed of connection that would grow in ways they could not yet imagine. The city continued around them, full of motion and noise, but in their minds lingered the quiet moment of care and attention, a moment that marked the beginning of a story neither of them would forget. The days passed, but the encounter stayed in the mind of the man. Even as he returned to his work meetings and endless responsibilities, he found himself thinking about the woman and her situation. Something about the way she moved, the quiet strength she carried, and the weight she bore stayed with him. He realized he wanted to understand more, to see how she was managing, and to help in ways that mattered. It was not about recognition or praise, but a genuine concern that he could not ignore. He began looking for small ways to support her without intruding. Remembering the vulnerability and effort he had seen on that crowded street, the woman went about her life as usual. But the memory of the man helping her lingered too. She had been cautious with strangers all her life, relying mostly on herself and the few friends she trusted. Yet the man had shown a kindness without expectation, something that felt rare and comforting. She found herself thinking about the encounter often, wondering who he was and why he had stopped. It made her feel that there were people in the world who saw others and acted out of care rather than gain. It was a feeling she had rarely experienced, and it stayed with her during long tiring days preparing for her baby. One morning, as she left to go to a nearby market, she noticed a familiar figure in the distance. The man was walking with calm confidence, carrying himself in the same way she remembered. For a moment, she hesitated, unsure if she should approach or continue on her way. But he saw her and smiled gently, the recognition immediate. He walked over and asked how she was, genuinely interested in her well-being. She told him about the challenges she was facing, about the difficulties of living alone and preparing for the baby. He listened carefully, nodding and offering a few simple suggestions. His attention was patient, and it made her feel valued in a way she had not felt for a long time. They began meeting more often, though always casually and without pressure. Sometimes it was on the street, other times near a small cafe where she liked to sit and rest. He would check on her health, ask about the baby, and occasionally carry small things she needed. She was hesitant to accept help at first, proud and independent. But gradually she realized that accepting care did not make her weak. It was a small lesson in trust and humility. For him, every meeting was an opportunity to learn about resilience and strength from someone facing challenges he could never imagine. He began to understand that wealth alone could not provide the same lessons life could, so that true value lay in empathy and connection. One afternoon, she confided in him about her fears and worries. She spoke about the uncertainty of the future, about medical appointments she worried she could not afford, and about the loneliness that sometimes pressed on her chest like a heavy weight. He listened quietly, never interrupting, and offered suggestions on practical ways to make life easier. He connected her with resources, helping her find affordable medical care and providing small support to make her days manageable. The woman felt her heart lighten, not just from the material help, but because someone truly saw her struggles and wanted to ease them without asking for anything in return. She had been used to facing life alone, but she began to feel that she did not have to do it entirely by herself. Through these days, they shared small stories and experiences. She told him about her childhood, about dreams she had once carried but had put aside for survival, and about her hopes for the baby. He shared bits of his own life too, not in a boastful way, but in ways that revealed he was human too. He spoke of times he had been stressed and lonely despite the material success he had achieved. They found comfort in the honesty between them, a space where judgment did not exist, only understanding. They laughed softly over small incidents, shared quiet moments over coffee, and occasionally walked together through quiet streets where the noise of the city felt distant. The connection grew slowly, naturally, without force or expectation. The woman began to trust him more, realizing that his support was consistent and genuine. She felt less isolated, less burdened by the enormity of her responsibilities. He, in turn, felt a change within himself. He had always been focused on results, deals, and achievements, but now he began to value patience, listening, and the simple act of being present for someone else. The moments they shared became a grounding force in his life, a reminder of what really mattered beyond the walls of offices and boardrooms. One day, she experienced a difficulty with her pregnancy. She had a scare that left her frightened and unsure of what to do. He was there immediately, guiding her calmly, helping her reach the clinic, and offering support without hesitation. In that moment, she realized fully that this connection was not temporary or superficial. It was rooted in genuine care and attention, the kind that could make life bearable even in frightening circumstances. For him, the event reinforced the depth of human experience that could never be measured by money alone. It taught him that being present in someone's life, even briefly, could have enormous significance. As weeks passed, they continued to meet, talk, and share life's small moments. She grew stronger, more confident, and more hopeful. She prepared for the baby with care, knowing that someone was looking out for her in a way that went beyond the practical. Touching the emotional and psychological aspects of her life, he felt a growing responsibility, not imposed but natural, to be a steady presence. He began to see her not just as a woman he had helped, but as a person whose life mattered deeply and whose challenges were worth acknowledging and supporting. Their bond became a quiet story in the midst of the city, unnoticed by most, but meaningful to both. Each meeting carried a sense of understanding that words alone could not express. They learned from each other, he learning humility and patience, she learning trust and that it was acceptable to accept help. The world around them continued its noise and rush, but in their moments together, there was a calm clarity, a sense of mutual respect and quiet encouragement. The woman began to prepare more actively for the baby. Using the support offered to make practical plans, she arranged for the home, took care of medical appointments, started thinking about the future in ways she had avoided before. He continued to offer help where needed, always respectful, never intrusive, understanding that the most important thing was her comfort and safety. Their interactions became steady and reliable, a thread of stability in the unpredictability of life. Through it all, they remained mindful of boundaries, never forcing a connection, but allowing it to grow naturally. She began to share small triumphs and setbacks, and he celebrated them quietly alongside her. They learned to communicate without pressure, to offer support without expectation, and to trust that the other person was sincere. This balance became the foundation of their relationship, one built on respect, empathy, shared humanity rather than circumstance or obligation. Months passed, and the bond between them deepened quietly. She felt a sense of security she had rarely known, and he felt a sense of fulfillment that wealth alone could not provide. Their connection was no longer just about helping with groceries or errands, but about being witnesses to each other's resilience, challenges, and small victories. The city continued to move around them, full of strangers and noise. But they had found a corner of understanding where life felt more manageable and less lonely. Through every small act, every conversation, every quiet moment, they began to shape a story of trust and care. It was a story that did not need grand gestures or announcements, only sincerity and presence. The woman began to feel that even though the road ahead was uncertain, she was not walking it alone. The man realized that life's most important achievements were not measured in deals or wealth, but in the quiet impact one could have on another person's life. Both were learning from each other, growing and changing in ways that neither had expected when they first met. By the end of these months, they'd both come to understand something important. That genuine connection could emerge from a chance encounter. That kindness could reshape perspective, and that lives could be changed quietly, but deeply, through empathy and care. The woman grew more confident, more prepared, and more hopeful, while the man found meaning beyond the material, discovering that the richness of life lay in the people he touched, the moments he was present, and the humanity he chose to acknowledge as the days turned into weeks. The woman faced challenges that tested her strength and determination. Living alone with a growing belly was not easy. Tasks that were simple before now required more effort and careful planning. Carrying groceries, climbing stairs, cooking meals, and managing bills became constant reminders of the weight she bore. Some days she felt strong and capable, while others she felt the sharp sting of exhaustion and worry. Despite the support she had been receiving, the uncertainty of her future pressed heavily on her mind. The world felt larger and more intimidating as the baby grew closer to being born. The man continued to check on her, always careful not to impose or make her feel dependent. He listened patiently as she spoke about her struggles, offering suggestions without pressuring her. On some days, he carried groceries, ran errands, or helped arrange appointments. On other days, he simply sat and listened while she spoke about her fears, hopes, and plans. The presence of someone who cared and who truly understood the weight of her responsibilities began to lighten her burden. She still faced the world alone in many ways, but the quiet support gave her confidence she had not felt before. There were moments when she wondered if she was relying too much on him. Pride had always been a guiding force in her life, and asking for help felt uncomfortable. She had been used to managing her life with her own hands, and vulnerability was not easy. She struggled with her feelings of pride, sometimes questioning whether accepting his help would make her weaker, but each time she saw the sincerity in his eyes and the consistency of his support. She realized that accepting care was not weakness. It was an act of trust and courage, and it allowed her to prepare for her baby with more strength and clarity. One afternoon, she experienced a scare with her pregnancy that left her frightened and anxious. She had been feeling sudden pains and did not know what to do. The man immediately offered to accompany her to the clinic, ensuring she reached the care she needed. During the ride, he spoke calmly, helping her focus on breathing and staying calm. At the clinic, he waited quietly while she was examined, never rushing or distracting the staff, only making sure she was safe and attended. The experience was frightening for her, but having someone beside her made the moment more manageable. She realized that support was more than physical help. It was the comfort of knowing someone cared and would not abandon her in a difficult moment. As the pregnancy progressed, she faced more small crises, each one a test of her resilience. The man remained present, offering help where needed and providing guidance when asked. He respected her independence and never made her feel less capable, but he provided steady reassurance. Over time, she began to notice a difference in herself. Her confidence grew as she learned she could accept help and still retain her strength. Her fear of the unknown slowly lessened because she had someone she could count on, someone whose presence created stability and hope in her life. The city around them continued its busy rhythm, but in their moments together, there was a quiet clarity. Walking down streets filled with strangers, they shared conversations, laughter, and sometimes moments of silence that were comforting. She began to feel that her life was no longer just about surviving, but also about living and planning for the future. The man, too, noticed a shift in himself. He had always measured success by achievements, money, and influence. But now he saw that his actions had impact in ways that could not be quantified. Helping her, simply being present and attentive, taught him about responsibility, empathy, and the human connections that truly mattered. Friends and colleagues began to notice his change. He spoke less about work and more about life, listening more intently, and showing patience and understanding he had not demonstrated before. He did not talk openly about his involvement with the woman, but his demeanor reflected the lessons he was learning. She also shared parts of her life with a few close friends, describing the support she received and how it made her feel valued and cared for. The trust between them continued to grow quietly. Without needing to be explained, a bond formed from shared experiences, challenges, and care. One day, she received troubling news about her medical condition that required additional attention. She felt fear rising within her, but the man was immediately by her side, helping her navigate the appointments, arranging care, and providing comfort. His presence made the overwhelming situation manageable. He did not solve all the problems, but his calmness, patience, and support created a space where she could focus on her well-being and the well-being of her baby. The fear was still there, but it was accompanied by a sense of security that gave her courage to face each challenge. Through these moments, she began to trust her own instincts more. She realized that seeking help and guidance did not diminish her strength. It allowed her to act wisely and safely for herself and the baby. The man's consistent support created a framework where she could make decisions with confidence. Their relationship was not defined by dependence, but by mutual respect, understanding, and shared humanity. She learned to recognize the value of guidance and care while maintaining her independence, a balance that gave her inner strength. They shared quiet afternoons, simple conversations, and small acts of kindness that became significant in their lives. Sometimes it was a walk to the market, a conversation over coffee, or a moment of rest on a bench in the park. Each interaction was grounded in sincerity, without any pretense or expectation. She began to notice the subtle ways he encouraged her, the gentle questions that helped her think clearly, the small gestures that made daily life easier. Each of these moments built a foundation of trust and connection that shaped their bond. The challenges were not always visible to the outside world. Strangers passed by without noticing the struggles she faced or the strength she displayed, yet in their private interactions, both learned valuable lessons. She learned that support could be freely given and safely accepted, and he learned that his presence could have profound effects beyond business and material success. Their experiences were small but deeply impactful, creating a sense of purpose and connection that neither had anticipated when they first met. She began preparing more actively for the arrival of her child. She organized the home, arranged medical care, and took steps to ensure her well-being and the well-being of the baby. The man continued to provide guidance and assistance, always respecting her autonomy. He was present when she needed him and stepped back when she wanted space. This balance strengthened the trust between them, allowing her to feel capable and supported simultaneously. Their connection deepened without words, rooted in mutual understanding, care, and respect for boundaries. The woman faced days when fear and uncertainty returned, but she had learned to manage them with composure. She knew she was not alone, that there was someone who cared consistently and sincerely. This realization was transformative, giving her a sense of stability and hope. The man witnessed her growth and felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He realized that impact in life was not always about grand gestures, but about consistent presence, care, and attention to another person's well-being. Through small acts, quiet conversations, and shared experiences, they developed a rhythm of support and understanding. Each day brought challenges, but also small victories. She grew stronger physically, emotionally, and mentally. He grew in empathy, patience, and understanding. Their connection was not dramatic or loud, but it carried depth and significance, shaping their perspectives and lives. They had learned from each other, growing quietly and steadily through genuine human connection. By the end of this period, they both understood the importance of presence, empathy, and trust. Life's challenges continued, but the woman was more confident in facing them, and the man had discovered the immeasurable value of supporting someone through difficulties. They had become anchors for each other, not in a dramatic or dependent way, but through shared experience, care, and understanding. This chapter in their story reflected the quiet strength of human connection, the resilience found in mutual support, and the transformative power of simply being there for someone when they needed it most. As the pregnancy advanced, the woman found herself relying more on the small network of support that had grown around her. The man remained a quiet but steady presence in her life, offering guidance, encouragement, and practical assistance when needed. Every gesture, no matter how small, carried meaning and helped her face the daily challenges with more confidence. Carrying groceries, attending appointments, arranging her home for the baby, and managing the responsibilities of living alone became tasks she could approach with greater assurance. The knowledge that someone was genuinely looking out for her eased her worries and gave her courage to tackle what seemed impossible before. The man, for his part, noticed a shift within himself. He had always been driven by ambition, wealth, and the pursuit of success, but these priorities now seemed less central. Observing the woman's resilience and determination taught him lessons money could never buy. He realized that human connection, empathy, care held more power to transform lives than any business achievement or material gain. Each day spent helping her strengthened his understanding that real fulfillment came from making a positive difference in someone else's life, and that even small acts could have lasting effects. They continued to spend time together, sometimes in quiet spaces, other times in the bustling city, navigating errands and appointments. Every interaction was grounded in respect and understanding, allowing the woman to maintain her independence while also feeling supported. Conversations often drifted to their pasts, hopes, and dreams. She spoke about her fears for the future, about the baby, and about the loneliness she had experienced. He listened patiently, offering advice and reassurance, never judgment or pressure. Through these dialogues, they formed a bond rooted in trust, respect, and shared humanity, a connection that grew stronger with each passing day. Challenges continued to appear. Health scares, concerns about finances, and the demands of preparing for a newborn occasionally brought moments of tension and worry. Each time, the man remained present, offering practical help, emotional support, and calm guidance. His presence did not eliminate the difficulties, but it made them more bearable. She began to notice that she could handle her fears and responsibilities more effectively when she had someone reliable by her side. This realization strengthened her resilience and confidence, teaching her that seeking support did not compromise her independence. They also shared moments of quiet reflection. Sitting together in a small park, watching the city move around them, they would talk about the future, about life beyond the immediate challenges. She began to imagine the possibilities for herself and her child, feeling hope she had not experienced for a long time. He started to see the city differently, noticing not just the chaos and competition, but the individual stories of struggle, courage, and perseverance that made life meaningful. These reflective moments allowed them to see beyond immediate concerns. Creating a deeper understanding of life and their place within it, the woman faced moments of vulnerability. Moments when her pride and independence made it hard to ask for help. Each time she did, she discovered that the man's support was unwavering and genuine. He never judged, never expected anything in return, and never made her feel incapable. This consistent presence helped her trust not only him but also herself. She realized that accepting help was not a sign of weakness, but a means of strengthening herself and preparing for the future. The baby she carried became a source of motivation, reminding her that resilience and courage could guide her through even the most uncertain times. Through the months, they shared simple but meaningful experiences, running errands together, preparing for the arrival of the baby. Discussing small worries and joys and enjoying quiet walks became routines that brought stability to their lives. Each shared moment deepened their understanding of one another, creating a sense of partnership without dependence. They learned to communicate openly, to respect boundaries, and to offer support in ways that were both helpful and respectful. This balance became the cornerstone of their connection, allowing it to grow naturally and sincerely. One day, the woman faced a particularly challenging situation when she received news that required immediate attention. The man helped her navigate the circumstances with calmness and care. He arranged appointments, offered guidance, and stayed by her side as she made important decisions. His support transformed a moment of fear and uncertainty into an opportunity for her to act with clarity and confidence. The experience reinforced the depth of their connection, showing her that genuine care could create a foundation of stability even in the most difficult times. As the birth approached, the woman began preparing her home and her life more carefully. She organized essential items, arranged the space for the baby, and took steps to ensure that she and the child would have a safe and nurturing environment. The man assisted thoughtfully, providing advice, helping with logistics, and offering reassurance. His involvement was steady and consistent, never overwhelming, and always respectful of her autonomy. This approach helped her feel capable and prepared, giving her the confidence to face the birth with courage and hope. Through all these moments, they developed a rhythm that brought calm and certainty amidst life's unpredictability. The city continued to move around them, full of strangers and noise. But their shared experiences created a small space of understanding and support. Each challenge faced, each small victory celebrated, strengthened their bond and deepened the trust between them. The woman learned to rely on support without losing her independence, and the man discovered the profound value of being present in another person's life with sincerity and care. They also shared moments of laughter and joy, finding comfort in small pleasures amidst the challenges, walking together, talking about memories, or observing simple details of the city became opportunities for connection and reflection. These moments reminded them that life was not just about struggles, but also about appreciating beauty, humanity, and the potential for positive change. Their interactions became more than support. They became a source of mutual growth, encouragement, and understanding. As the days drew closer to the birth, the anticipation grew alongside a sense of shared responsibility and hope. The woman felt prepared and supported, both physically and emotionally. The man continued to offer guidance, presence, and reassurance, understanding the importance of patience, empathy, and reliability. Their bond strengthened over months of shared experiences. It became a foundation for facing the challenges and joys of the impending arrival together. They both realized that the relationship they had built was not defined by circumstance alone, but by the consistent acts of care, trust, and respect that had grown over time. The woman felt empowered, supported, and ready for the future. The man understood that the richest experiences in life came not from wealth or achievements, but from meaningful human connections that nurtured growth, courage, and hope. Together, they had created a small world of understanding and stability amidst the larger chaos of the city, a world where life-changing support and genuine connection could flourish. Through every act of kindness, every moment of guidance, and every shared experience, both learned the true value of human connection. The woman found courage and confidence in facing the future, knowing she had support and understanding beside her. The man discovered fulfillment, empathy, and the immeasurable impact of consistent care. As the birth approached, both were transformed by their journey, prepared to face the next chapter with hope, strength, and the knowledge that lives can be changed profoundly through genuine human presence and kindness. The day finally arrived when the woman went into labor. Months of preparation, worry, and anticipation led to this moment. The man remained calm and supportive, helping her get to the hospital quickly and ensuring she felt safe and cared for. Every detail, from transportation to comfort, was attended to with thoughtfulness and care. The journey was filled with quiet reassurance and presence, giving her strength as the process unfolded. The hospital was busy, but in that small space of connection, fear and uncertainty were met with steady support, allowing her to focus on what was most important, the arrival of her child. During the hours of labor, the man stayed beside her, offering calm words and encouragement. He did not try to control the situation or dictate what should happen. Instead, he provided stability, a steady hand to hold, and a voice of calm assurance. Each contraction brought pain and fear, but his presence created a space where she could find courage and resilience. She felt supported, not just physically, but emotionally, knowing that she was not facing this alone. The months of preparation, small acts of care, and quiet conversations had led to this moment, and their bond provided a foundation of strength for the challenges of labor. The medical staff worked efficiently, guiding her through each stage. The man respected their expertise, trusting their guidance while continuing to provide comfort and encouragement. He noticed the way she focused on the baby and her determination to bring the child into the world safely. He realized how profound the moment was, witnessing life in its rawest, most powerful form. The experience made him reflect on life beyond wealth and achievement, understanding the true depth of human strength and resilience. Every moment was a lesson in courage, patience, and the power of support. Finally, after long hours, the baby arrived. The woman held her child for the first time, feeling overwhelming love, relief, and joy. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at the small life she had carried and nurtured for months. The man stood nearby, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. He had been present for moments of fear, worry, and preparation, but this moment was transformative for him as well. Witnessing new life, seeing the woman's courage, and knowing he had been able to provide support without expectation made the experience deeply meaningful. The early hours after birth were filled with quiet reflection and bonding. The woman learned to care for her child with guidance from the medical staff, and the man offered assistance wherever it was helpful. He remained attentive, calm, and respectful, never overshadowing her role but providing the reassurance that she was not alone. Each small action, from fetching water to adjusting the blankets, became an expression of care that strengthened the bond between them. In these quiet moments, the depth of their connection was fully realized, showing that consistent support and genuine presence can transform lives in ways that are profound and lasting. As days passed, they returned home. The woman settled into the rhythms of caring for her child, guided by her instincts, strengthened by her preparation, and supported by the man's consistent presence. The home became a space of comfort, warmth, and love. They arranged things carefully, ensuring the baby's needs were met, while also maintaining balance so the woman could rest and recover. She realized that life could be challenging, but with support, planning, and resilience, she could manage and even thrive. The man felt the fulfillment of seeing his care make a tangible difference, witnessing courage, growth, and the creation of a nurturing environment. Over the following weeks, the woman and her child adapted to their new routine. Feeding times, sleep schedules, and simple daily tasks became structured, yet manageable. The man continued to offer practical help, guidance, and emotional support without intruding on her independence. Their relationship had evolved naturally, grounded in trust and shared experience. They had moved from strangers to companions in a journey of life, care, and transformation. Every challenge faced together reinforced the importance of empathy, consistency, and presence in shaping meaningful connections. The woman began to feel a renewed sense of confidence. The struggles she had faced during pregnancy and early motherhood had strengthened her, teaching her about patience, perseverance, and the value of support. She realized that while she had been capable on her own, accepting help had allowed her to navigate challenges with greater clarity and strength. The baby thrived, and the home filled with warmth, laughter, and quiet joy. The man observed these changes with quiet satisfaction, knowing that his consistent support had contributed to this positive outcome as they settled into a routine. They also reflected on how far they had come. The chance encounter on the street months earlier had sparked a journey neither had anticipated. The woman had grown stronger, more confident, and prepared for the future. The man had discovered the profound value of empathy, presence, and support beyond material success. Both had learned lessons about human connection, resilience, and the power of consistent, genuine care. Their lives had been changed in ways that could not be measured, yet the impact was profound and lasting. Over time, their bond continued to grow. They shared moments of quiet conversation, laughter, and reflection, celebrating small victories and navigating challenges together. The city moved around them, filled with strangers and noise. But within their home and shared experiences, they had created a space of stability, understanding, and love. The woman felt empowered, supported, and capable, while the man recognized that true richness came from meaningful connections and the ability to make a positive difference in another person's life. Looking back, they both understood that this journey had been transformative. A simple act of kindness, a willingness to help, and consistent presence had grown into a life-changing relationship. The woman had faced uncertainty and fear with courage, and the man had learned the immeasurable impact of support and care. Together, they had created a foundation for the future that was built on trust, empathy, and shared humanity. The story concluded not with grandeur or dramatic declarations, but with quiet fulfillment, hope, and a deep understanding of life's true value. The woman held her child, strong, confident, and ready for the challenges ahead. The man observed, knowing that the lives of both mother and child had been changed forever by the connection they had shared. The encounter that had begun months earlier on a crowded street had grown into a story of resilience, care, and transformation, proving that genuine human connection can alter the course of life, leaving a lasting impact that extends far beyond the initial moment. Months passed after the birth of the child, and life settled into a rhythm that was both challenging and rewarding. The woman had grown into her role as a mother, learning to navigate the demands of caring for her baby while maintaining her own well-being. She had discovered a strength within herself that she had not fully recognized before. The experience of pregnancy and early motherhood had shaped her perspective on life, resilience, and what it meant to depend on others in meaningful ways. The man remained a consistent presence in her life, not as a controller or decision-maker, but as a reliable support. He continued to help when needed, offering guidance, practical assistance, and emotional reassurance. Their relationship had matured, evolving from a chance encounter into a quiet partnership grounded in respect and care. He had witnessed her growth firsthand, and it filled him with a sense of fulfillment and purpose that no business success or material gain could match. Every small achievement, every moment of progress in her life, and the child's development, felt like a shared victory, even though they each retained their own independence. Together, they navigated the daily challenges of parenthood. Nights were often sleepless, feeding schedules unpredictable, and illnesses occasional but unavoidable. Yet these struggles were met with calm problem-solving and shared responsibility. The woman found that having a consistent, supportive presence allowed her to focus on both herself and the baby without feeling overwhelmed. The man observed closely, learning about patience, adaptability, and the quiet victories that shaped everyday life. Their interactions were simple, yet meaningful. Each small act of support reinforcing trust, connection, and mutual understanding. As the child grew, milestones brought moments of joy, reflection, and gratitude. First smiles, first words, and tentative steps were celebrated quietly but deeply. The woman felt proud and empowered, recognizing her ability to nurture life and manage challenges simultaneously. The man felt the weight of his own lessons, understanding that genuine involvement in someone else's life could have profound emotional rewards. He realized that life's most meaningful experiences often came not from grand gestures, but from consistent attention, care, and presence over time. The woman also began exploring new possibilities for her life beyond motherhood. Encouraged by the stability and support she had received, she pursued opportunities for work, education, or personal growth. She realized that accepting help did not diminish her independence, but rather enabled her to create a foundation for a better future. The man offered guidance when requested, helping her connect with resources or plan steps toward her goals. He respected her autonomy and celebrated her successes, recognizing that empowerment came from choice and action rather than passive assistance. Through this period, their bond remained strong, built on shared experiences, trust, and understanding. Conversations about the future, hopes for the child, and reflections on past challenges became moments of connection. They also shared lighter times, playing with the baby, taking walks, or enjoying quiet moments of conversation. The child became a source of shared joy, a tangible reminder of the journey they had navigated together and the life that had emerged from their combined care and attention. Challenges continued to appear, as they always do in life. Unexpected illnesses, financial concerns, and moments of exhaustion tested both the woman and the man. Each time they approached the problems calmly, relying on the lessons they had learned together. Their responses were grounded in patience, empathy, and practical problem-solving. The woman discovered that she could face difficulties without panic, drawing on inner strength and external support. The man realized that his role was not to fix every problem, but to be present, listen, and help when needed. This balance strengthened their relationship and reinforced the importance of trust, respect, and mutual care. The woman reflected often on the journey she had taken. From the early days of pregnancy, through moments of fear and uncertainty, to the joys and challenges of motherhood, she had grown in ways that were profound. The chance encounter on the street months ago had set in motion a series of events that had changed her life and shaped her perspective. She understood that strength was not only about independence, but also about recognizing when to accept help, when to trust, and when to allow others into her life. Each lesson had contributed to the resilience she now embodied. The man, in turn, reflected on his own transformation. He had entered her life as a stranger, guided by instinctive kindness and the desire to help. Along the way, he had discovered lessons about empathy, patience, and the importance of human connection. He realized that the value of life was not measured in wealth or status, but in the impact one could have on others and the relationships one nurtured. Witnessing her growth, supporting her, and sharing in the joys and challenges of her life and the child's life had transformed his understanding of fulfillment and purpose. Over time, the home became a space of warmth, trust, and growth. Every corner, every routine, and every shared moment reflected the journey they had traveled together. The child's presence brought light and energy, while the stability of their relationship created a foundation for continued growth. They developed a rhythm of life that balanced care, independence, and shared responsibility. A rhythm that allowed all three of them to thrive. They continued to navigate the world with patience and understanding. Social interactions, work obligations, and the complexities of daily life were met with the perspective they had gained through shared experiences. Each challenge was approached calmly with empathy, practical solutions, and mutual support. The woman grew more confident in making decisions for herself and her child, while the man learned to offer guidance without control, understanding that true impact comes from presence, consistency, and care rather than direction or authority. Moments of reflection reminded them both of the journey that had brought them here. From a simple act of help on a crowded street, through months of support, growth, and shared experiences, they had created a story of transformation, resilience, and meaningful connection. Life continued to present challenges, but they faced them with a sense of stability, hope, and shared purpose. Every day was an opportunity to nurture growth, strengthen bonds, experience the quiet victories that life offered as the months continued. The woman's confidence expanded beyond motherhood. She explored new opportunities, nurtured her own goals, continued to create a life of stability and purpose for herself and her child. The man remained a supportive presence, celebrating successes and providing guidance without overstepping boundaries. Their relationship continued to be defined by trust, respect, and shared humanity, showing that the most profound connections are built not on circumstance, but on consistent care and understanding. They celebrated milestones, both small and large, finding joy in everyday achievements. The child's growth, the woman's accomplishments, and the lessons they had learned together became sources of gratitude and reflection. Life was not without difficulty, but the tools they had developed together, patience, empathy, presence, and mutual respect, allowed them to navigate challenges effectively. Each success reinforced the lessons they had learned and strengthened the bonds that had formed through months of shared experience. Looking back, they realized that the encounter that had started it all was more than chance. It had sparked a journey of growth, understanding, and transformation that shaped the lives of all three of them. The woman had discovered her strength, independence, and capacity to trust and accept support. The man had learned the profound value of human connection, empathy, and consistent care. The child, a symbol of resilience and new beginnings, had become the living proof of their shared journey. Their story continued quietly, without dramatic gestures or public recognition, but it was rich in meaning and impact. They had built a life grounded in care, trust, and mutual growth. Challenges would continue, as they always do, but they faced the future with confidence, knowing that the bonds they had forged and the lessons they had learned would guide them through whatever lay ahead. The encounter on the street had changed their lives forever, showing that even small acts of kindness and genuine presence can create ripples that shape the course of life in profound and lasting ways.